Alrighty, so we are going to go ahead and get started this morning. We are going to start today on our backs, so feel free, especially if you're at home, feel free to grab a pillow or a blanket to put under your knees or under your head, whatever makes you feel more comfortable here. Lying on our backs, taking up as much space as we need here, taking the feet out wide. The arms are at our sides, palms up, or wherever comfortable. Once we feel settled, you can begin to close the eyes. Beginning to turn our attention inward. Noticing the breath flowing in and out of the body. And taking the time to arrive on our mats this morning. Yoga is all about releasing the negative and embracing the positive. So while we're here this morning, just taking a moment to exhale what no longer serves us and using this as our intention this morning. So what no longer serves us can be judgments about ourselves, be stress or weight that we're carrying, any negative thoughts towards ourselves or even others, any anxious feelings. With each exhale, just releasing all of that, letting it go. And coming to a space of compassion for ourselves and for others here on our mats. Noticing our mind, where our thoughts are, with no judgment, no right or wrong, just noticing. Then bringing that attention to the breath. Noticing the belly rise and fall. Coming into our 3-part breath here as a class. If we'd like, we can put one hand on the belly and one hand on the chest here. And our inhale through the nose, filling the chest, and then the belly. And exhaling, the belly releases, the chest falls out the nose. Inhaling the nose, the chest, the belly, and exhaling the belly, the chest, out the nose. Continuing with this 3-part breath for just 2 more at our own pace. The nose, chest, and belly, chest, nose. One more deep breath together as a class. Inhaling through the nose, the chest, the belly, and this time opening the mouth, letting it all go on our exhale with a big big H-ah sound. One more breath, just like that. Inhaling the nose, the chest, the belly. Maybe taking one more sip of air here. And on our exhale, opening the mouth, letting it all go. Like you're fogging up a mirror. And starting to find some movement. We can start to rock the head side to side, massaging the back of the head. Maybe even beginning to wiggle the toes and wiggle the fingers. Coming back to our environment. And on our next inhale, we'll go ahead and hug both knees into the chest here. Giving them a tight squeeze. We can start to draw circles with the knees, massaging the lower back. And switching directions of that circle. From here, keeping the knees close together, we'll go ahead and take them out to the left, keeping the knees bent. Finding a little bit of a twist here. The arms can come out to the side. The gaze is over the right shoulder. Taking one full breath here. And keeping the arms out to a T on our next inhale, we'll go ahead. Just bring both knees over towards the right this time. The gaze is to the left, finding that same twist. And starting to find some movement here, keeping those arms out to a T. Maybe even beginning to engage the core. Inhaling, bring the knees over to the left. Exhaling to hold. Inhaling, bringing the knees over towards the right. And exhaling to hold here. One more on each side. Inhaling, bringing the knees over to the left. And exhaling here. Inhaling, bringing the knees over to the right. And exhaling here. Inhaling, coming back to center, getting those knees one more tight squeeze here. And then our exhale, allowing both legs to fall long. On our next inhale, we can reach both arms up overhead, finding our good morning stretch, which is very appropriate this early in the morning. Pointing through the toes, reaching through the fingertips here, finding length along the whole body. Feeling the rib cage expand on our inhales here. And exhaling, releasing the arms at our sides, palms down. On our inhale, we're going to go ahead and reach the right leg up towards the sky, keeping that foot flexed so that our heel is pointing up towards the ceiling. We're going to move into just a little bit of core here, so keeping the arms at our sides, palms down. We're going to switch feet, bringing that left foot up, extended up towards the sky. We can plant that right leg on the ground, or if we'd like an extra challenge, we can try hovering it about an inch off the mat. Inhaling to switch legs, right leg comes up, and exhaling to hold. Inhaling to switch, and exhaling to hold. Inhaling to switch, and exhaling to hold, making sure we're really pressing the lower back into the mat here, moving with our own breath at our own pace here. Feel free to bend the knees, take whatever variation of this that we'd like, just starting to warm up the body, waking up the core, making sure we're breathing here. And finding one more on each side. And on our next exhale, hugging both knees into the chest again. Maybe rocking side to side. When we're ready, we can start to rock back and forth, tucking in the chin here, starting small, and eventually making our way up to a comfortable seated position. And from here, we're going to go ahead and shift our weight forward and come to a tabletop position. Our shoulders are over our wrists here and our hips are over our knees. We're going to come right into our cat and cow. So on our inhale, dropping the belly, lifting the gaze for cow. And exhaling, rounding out through the spine, tucking in the chin for cat. Inhaling for cow. And exhaling for cat. Moving with our own breath at our own pace here, finding any other movements that we'd like. That can be rocking back and forth, or maybe side to side, opening up the side body. Just taking any movements that feel good this morning. From here, we're going to go ahead and come straight into a plank. So this can be a kneeling plank, and we can walk our hands forward, keeping the spine long. Shoulders are over the wrists here. Or if we'd like to, we can come straight into that high plank, lifting up the knees here. We're going to be here just for a couple breaths. So we want to spread all 10 fingers wherever we are, gripping through the fingertips. We're pressing away from the floor, which you'll feel kind of separates the shoulder blades here, inflating them. Drawing the belly button in towards the spine here, feeling strong. Taking one more deep inhale. And exhaling, setting the hips back, finding our first downward facing dog. You can go ahead and bend one knee at a time. Pedaling out the feet here. Keeping a nice generous bend in the knees. I'm starting to find some movement here on our inhale, coming to that higher kneeling plank. And on our exhale, dropping the knees, untucking the toes, coming into our child's pose. Allowing the forehead to fall heavy towards the mat here, sinking back into the hips. Noticing how this child's pose feels. Setting the hips back as much as possible. If we'd like to, we can find a side stretch here, walking the fingertips over towards the right. We can even come up a little bit as we walk the hands over. And then on our exhale, sinking back into that left hip. Feeling that left side body open up, breathing into the chest here. And switching sides, walking the fingertips over towards the left. If we'd like to, we can come up, and on our exhale, sinking back into that right hip. Coming back to center here, taking one more full breath. When we're ready on our exhale, we'll go ahead and tuck the toes and lift the hips, coming back into our downward facing dog. Inhaling, shifting the weight forward to that high plank or kneeling plank. And exhaling, dropping the knees, sinking back into that child's pose. Inhaling, tucking the toes and lifting the hips, finding our downward facing dog. And exhaling to hold here. Inhaling, shifting the weight forward to that high plank or kneeling plank. And exhaling, sending it back into our child's pose, untucking the toes. Inhaling, tucking the toes, setting the hips back for our downward facing dog. And exhaling to hold here. Starting to warm up the legs a little bit on our inhale. We'll go ahead and come high up onto the toes here. We're still spreading through all 10 fingers. We can keep a little bend in the knees if we'd like. And on our exhale, sending the heels back down towards the mat here. Inhaling, coming high up onto the toes. And exhaling, sending the heels down. Just 2 more times. Inhaling high up onto the toes. And exhaling, sending them back. Inhaling high up onto the toes. And exhaling, releasing them back down. This time on our inhale, our gaze is towards the top of our mat. We're going to slowly walk all the way up to our hands, taking our time here. Just little baby steps. Until we come all the way to the top of our mat here, finding our forward fold. We can bring the feet about hip distance apart. A good way to measure this is 2 fists. And once we're here, we can allow the head to hang heavy, keeping a slight bend in the knees, grabbing opposite elbows and swaying side to side for our ragdoll. And switching the grip of our elbows here, shaking the head no, and nodding the head yes, releasing go of any tension in the neck. And on our inhale, coming to our halfway lift, our fingertips are on our shins, we're rolling our shoulder blades back, really extending through the spine all the way from the hips through the crown of the head here, having a nice flat back. And exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling, sweeping the arms out and over, reaching up towards the sky. And exhaling, hands through heart center, coming into our chair pose. So relaxing the shoulders back and down here, pressing the palms together. We should maybe be able to wiggle the toes, really keeping the weight back in the heels here. Drawing the belly button in towards the spine. Holding for 1 more full breath here. Inhaling to rise. And exhaling, hinging at the hips, forward fold. Inhaling for our halfway lift. And exhaling, fold. Inhaling, sweeping the arms out and over. And exhaling, hands through heart center, coming into that chair. Taking 1 full breath here. Inhaling to rise. And exhaling, hinging at the hips, forward fold. Inhaling, we'll go ahead and take a deep bend in the knees so that we're able to plant the hands on the mat. And we'll simply just step back into our child's pose, taking the knees all the way to the edges of the mat, out wide, untucking the toes and sinking back into the hips here. Just taking a moment in our child's pose. Our arms can be outstretched in front of us, or if we'd rather, we can stack both fists and allow the forehead to rest on them as a pillow. Moving into our sun salutations next, which is 1 breath per movement, almost as if it's a moving meditation. Feel free to go at your own pace for that reason, or follow along with me. Take any variation of sun salutations that works best for you. With that, on our inhale, we're going to go ahead, reach our arms outstretched if they're not already, and start to shift our weight forward into that kneeling plank, bringing the knees in if we need to. So the spine is nice and long here. Again, we're pressing away from the floor, feeling strong here in our kneeling plank. And on our exhale, we're going to squeeze our elbows in on our sides and come all the way down onto our bellies. Keeping the hands at our chest, inhaling, opening up the heart. We're squeezing the elbows together, creating a little bit of tension in the hands by pulling back towards the feet, pressing the tops of the feet into the mat for a baby cobra, and exhaling, pushing back into our child's pose. Inhaling, shifting the weight forward for that kneeling plank. And exhaling, elbows at the sides all the way down. Inhaling, opening up the heart for baby cobra. And this time on our exhale, tucking the toes and lifting the hips for our downward facing dog. Inhaling, the gaze is forward. We'll travel to the top of our mats. And exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling for a halfway lift. And exhaling, fold. Inhaling, sweeping the arms up and over. And exhaling, sinking through our chair. Inhaling to rise. And exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling, bending the knees, planting the hands, stepping our left foot back for our low lunge. And exhaling our right foot back for our downward facing dog. Inhaling, shifting the weight forward to high plank or kneeling plank. And exhaling, chaturanga. We can come all the way down, squeezing the elbows in. If you'd like to come to up dog, we can come halfway. And inhaling, flipping the toes, widening the collarbones here. The thighs are off of the mat to keep the back nice and active and engaged. In up dog or baby cobra, on our exhale, sending the hips back, tucking the toes for down dog. Inhaling, the gaze is forward. We'll travel to the top of our mats. And exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling, halfway lift. And exhaling, fold. Inhaling, sweeping the arms up and over. And exhaling, hands through heart center for our chair. Inhaling to rise. And exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling, bending those knees to plant the hands, stepping our right foot back this time for our low lunge. And exhaling the left foot back for downward facing dog. Inhaling, shifting to kneeling or high plank. And exhaling all the way down or halfway. Inhaling to baby cobra or upward facing dog. And exhaling, sending the hips back for downward facing dog. Taking one full breath here, we're going to move through two more full sun salutations. So like I mentioned before, feel free to go at your own pace if you'd like, moving with your own breath. If you'd like a little challenge, and if it's safe, you can always try closing the eyes. This helps us turn inward a little easier. Otherwise, you can continue following along with me. I'm going to give a little bit less cues. So on our inhale, the gaze is forward. We'll travel to the top of the mat. And exhaling, fold. Inhale, halfway lift. And exhaling, fold. Inhaling, sweeping the arms up. And exhaling for chair. Inhaling to rise. And exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling, stepping the left foot back for low lunge. And exhaling, downward facing dog. Inhaling, shifting to plank. And exhaling, chaturanga, whatever variation. And our exhale, meeting back in our downward facing dog, moving through our last sun salutation. Inhaling, the gaze is forward, we'll travel to the top. And exhaling, fold. Inhaling, halfway lift. And exhaling, fold. Inhaling, sweeping the arms up. And exhaling for chair. Inhaling to rise. And exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling, stepping the right foot back for low lunge. And exhaling, stepping back for down dog. Inhaling, shifting to kneeling plank or high plank. And exhaling, chaturanga. And then our exhale, meeting back in our downward facing dog here. Taking a few breaths, feel free to find a child's pose, grab a sip of water, or find stillness in our downward facing dog. Just taking time to recenter and ground ourselves after our sun salutations. Noticing the warmth we've built in the body so far. Just reminding ourselves at any point in the class this morning, we can come back to a downward facing dog or a child's pose, just to regroup and reconnect with our breath. Coming back to that intention of letting go of what no longer serves us, which includes judgment towards ourselves. So just letting go of that judgment, especially on our mats for our practice. When we're ready, taking our time, we'll all meet back in our downward facing dog. From our downward facing dog, we're going to start to center the left foot in the middle of the mat. And on our inhale, we're going to reach the right leg up towards the sky, finding our three-legged dog. The foot can be pointed or flexed. We can keep that standing knee a little bent. We can stay here if we'd like. If we'd like to find a bit of a hip opener, we can start to bend the knee and stack the hips here, keeping that foot flexed, finding a little bit of a hip opener here, doing our best to keep the weight even in both hands, which is not easy. On our inhale, we'll come back to center for a three-legged dog. And on our exhale, stepping through, finding our low lunge. If we find our foot doesn't get all the way there, that is perfectly fine. We can just use our hands. Coming into our low lunge here, we're going to go ahead and drop that back knee and untuck the toes. And just take a moment here. If you have blocks, we can always put our hands on blocks here. And tucking the back toes, we're going to slowly start to walk the hands back. Straightening that front leg, flexing our right foot here. Coming into our half split. Just breathing into any sticky spaces, any areas that feel especially tight in the back of the leg and the hamstrings. And bending back through that front leg, taking one more moment here, stretching in through that back quad. And untucking our toes from here, bringing our left hand to the inside of our foot, finding a twist. We're gonna inhale, the right arm up overhead. The gaze follows if it feels good on the neck. Taking one more inhale to reach. And exhaling, reframing that front foot here. Tucking the back toes, lifting the back knee. We're going to go ahead and plant that back foot so that it's parallel with the back edge of our mat here. bringing our elbow to our knee. We're going to inhale, reaching that left arm all the way up towards the sky, coming into our side angle pose. I'm going to turn around on my mat so that you guys can see my front side. So our elbow is on the knee, palm facing up. You can also be on the floor on a block if that works for you in your practice. The left arm is reaching up and over. We're doing our best to roll that left rib cage or the hip back here, really opening up. And on our inhale, we'll go ahead and bring that left bicep to ear, reaching up and over, having one long line of energy all the way from the edge of the foot out through the fingertips here. Feeling strong. And on our inhale, we'll go ahead and come straight up into our warrior two. And exhaling, sinking into that knee here. Sending energy to both sides of the room, through the fingertips. Relaxing the shoulders here. Drawing the belly button in. We should be able to see our big toe just on the inside of our knee. Just taking a few moments here. Maybe we'll start to curl the edges of the lips upwards, finding a smile inadvertently. And just coming back to the breath. And on our next inhale, we'll go ahead and shift our weight forward, flipping that front palm, and exhaling to reverse our warrior. Backhand can rest on the thigh. We're keeping that bend in that front leg, reaching the right arm up towards the sky. And exhaling, windmilling the arms down, reframing that front foot for our low lunge. And exhaling, stepping back to our downward facing dog. As always, you have a choice here. We can drop the knees for a child's pose. We can stay in our downward facing dog. If we'd like a little bit more movement, we can come through our chaturanga. Whatever version of it that works best for us. Just doing whatever is best for us this morning. From here, coming back to our downward facing dog, we'll start to switch sides, centering the right foot in the middle of the mat this time. On our inhale, we can reach that left leg up towards the sky, pointed or flexed, keeping a slight bend in that standing leg. We're feeling strong in our three-legged dog. Of course, we can stay here if we feel like we're stable. If we'd like to find that hip opener, we can start to stack the hips, bending that left knee, flexing the foot here. Inhaling, coming back to center, three-legged dog. And on our next exhale, we'll go ahead and step that left foot through, placing it in between the hands. Like I mentioned before, we can always use our hands to help. Coming into that low lunge, we'll go ahead and drop the back knee, untucking the toes, and just taking a moment here, feeling that stretch in the front of that back leg. As always, if you have blocks in your practice, you can put our hands on blocks. It allows the spine to be a little straighter, opening up the chest. If we don't have blocks, that's perfectly fine. We can just come high up onto the fingertips. I like to say tenting the fingertips. And when we're ready, tucking those back toes, we'll start to straighten the front leg here. Flexing the left foot. And bending through that front leg again. Taking one more moment here. And finding that same twist, bringing the right hand to the inside of the foot here. We'll go ahead and inhale, reaching the left arm up overhead. The gaze follows. Inhaling to reach up towards the sky with that left hand. And exhaling, reframing that front foot here. We're going to go ahead and tuck the toes if they're not already, lifting that back knee. And we're going to spin that back foot down so that it's parallel with the back edge of our mat here. Left elbow comes to left knee, and we're going to inhale, reaching that right arm up, coming back to our side angle. Again, we can roll the right rib cage and hip back here. The gaze is through that right hand. Feeling strong here in our side angle. You can play with how much weight we want in that elbow. We'll notice when we take some weight off, the core engages. Now on our next inhale, lifting through that right arm, and exhaling, sinking into our warrior two on this side. Again, relaxing the shoulders. Inhaling, shifting the weight forward, flipping that front palm. And exhaling to reverse our warrior. Back hand can rest on the thigh, keeping that bend in the knee, reaching the left arm up towards the sky. And exhaling, windmilling the arms down, reframing that front foot, coming to our low lunge. And on our exhale, sending that left foot back, finding our downward facing dog, having the same options as before. We can drop the knees and find a child's pose. You can find an optional chaturanga. Just taking 2 breaths wherever we need to until we meet back in our downward facing dog. And from our downward facing dog, we'll start to switch sides, centering the left foot. On our inhale, reaching that right leg up towards the sky for our 3-legged dog. And exhaling, bending that right foot, opening up the hips. Inhaling, coming back to center. And exhaling, stepping that right foot through, placing it in between the hands for that low lunge. From here, dropping that back knee. And just taking a moment here. On our next inhale, tucking the toes if they're not already, we can go ahead and straighten that front leg. And bending back through that front knee. Bringing the left hand to the inside of the foot, inhaling, reaching the right arm up for our twist. And exhaling, releasing back down. Tucking the back toes, lifting the back knee, and spinning that back foot down. We'll go ahead and bring right elbow to knee and rolling that rib cage back. Inhaling the left arm up overhead. Taking 1 full breath here. And on our next inhale, reaching with that left arm. And exhaling, sinking into our warrior two. Inhaling, we'll start to shift the weight forward, flipping that front palm. And exhaling, reversing our warrior here. Inhaling, windmilling the arms all the way down. And exhaling, stepping back to our downward facing dog. Same options. We can find a quick child's pose, an optional chaturanga to keep the body moving. Until we switch sides. And from our downward facing dog, We'll go ahead and start to center the right foot in the middle of the mat this time. Inhaling the left leg up towards the sky for a three-legged dog. And on our exhale, bending that left knee, opening up the hip. Inhaling back to center for three-legged dog. And exhaling, stepping that left foot through, coming into our low lunge. Inhaling, we'll go ahead and drop that back knee and just taking a moment here. And when we're ready, we can tuck those back toes, walking the hands back, flexing that left foot. Inhaling, walking the hands back forward, bringing that right hand to the inside of the foot. On our next inhale, we'll go ahead and reach that left arm up towards the sky, finding our twist. The gaze follows. And exhaling, releasing back down, reframing that front foot, tucking the back toe, lifting the back knee, and spinning that foot so that it's parallel with the back edge of our mat. We'll go ahead and bring our left elbow to left knee, and inhaling, rolling that right rib cage and chest back. Inhaling through that top arm here. Taking one full breath here on this side. We can also extend that right arm up and over, bringing bicep to ear. Feeling long along the whole side of the body. And on our next inhale, reaching through that right arm. And exhaling, sinking into our warrior two. Feeling strong here, finding a smile. Coming back to the breath. On our inhale, we'll go ahead and shift the weight forward, flipping that front palm. And exhaling to reverse our warrior, keeping that bend in the front knee. Finding length along the left side body here. And inhaling, windmilling the arms down, reframing that front foot. And exhaling, stepping back to our downward facing dog. Again, we have the last option to find a chaturanga if you'd like to. Otherwise, just staying in our downward facing dog, taking a few clearing breaths together. Taking a deep inhale in through the nose. And on our exhale, opening the mouth, that audible H-ah sound. Like you're fogging up a mirror. Taking one more breath like that together, inhaling through the nose. And open the mouth, exhale it all out. From our downward facing dog, we're going to slowly start to walk the hands back towards the feet here. Coming all the way to the back of our mats, allowing the head to hang heavy. We're going to come into our gorilla pose. So taking a deep, deep bend in the knees so that the chest is resting directly on the thighs here. And then we're going to go ahead and bring the hands, palms up underneath the feet here, allowing the head to hang heavy. Keeping that deep, deep bend in the knees here. This is a stretch, but it's also really strengthening for the legs. The crown of the head is hanging towards the floor. If we'd like to, we can even wiggle the toes, which might massage the wrist creases here. I love to do that. I think it feels really good. And whenever we're ready, taking the hands out, coming back to our forward fold. Inhaling for our halfway lift. And exhaling to fold here. Inhaling, sweeping the arms out and over. And exhaling, hands to heart center. We're going to come into our balancing pose this morning. We're going to come back to tree pose, which is one of the first balancing poses that we try, and I invite you to take maybe a more challenging variation of it if you'd like to this morning. We're going to start to bring all of the weight into our left foot this time and kickstand that right foot out to the side, Hands are at heart center here. I'm just taking a moment. When we're ready, we can start to slide that right foot just so that the sole of the foot rests on the inside of the ankle. We can start with toes on the mat. Just finding our balance here. And when we're ready, we can start to lift that foot just below the knee on the calf muscle. We're staying here if we'd like to work on strength this morning, keeping a micro bend in that standing knee to really keep the standing leg active. We're lifting all the way through out the crown of the head here, relaxing the shoulders back and down, pressing the palms together. If we'd like to work on flexibility, we can bring that right foot all the way up into the inside of our thigh here, above the knee, like so. We would like to work on flexibility for those hips. Both are great, whatever we'd like to work on this morning. For our arm variations, we can keep the hands at heart center. You can inhale, reaching them up overhead. Some say growing branches, since this is tree pose. And then if you'd like to try a challenge, we can try closing the eyes if it's safe in our environment. Wherever we're at, maybe try and close the eyes and we'll notice that it might make it a little bit more challenging. I've heard, I'm not sure if it's a myth, but if you bring your attention to your belly button, whether your eyes are open or closed, I've heard that that helps with balance. And if we fall out, just getting right back in, wherever we're at, taking one more full breath. And exhaling, releasing down. Shaking out the arms, shaking out the legs. Great job, everybody. We'll go ahead and start to switch sides. Bringing all the way into that right foot here. Hands at heart center, kickstanding that left foot out to the side. And when we're ready, we can start to slide that sole of the foot to the inside of the ankle here. Finding our balance, and then whenever we're ready, we can bring that left foot just below the knee if we're working on that strength. We're working on flexibility, we can bring it above the knee. That is not working for me this morning. Above the knee. We want to work on flexibility. Wherever we're at, our hands can be at our heart center. They can be reaching up and over to grow our branches. If you'd like to try that challenge of closing our eyes, if it's safe in your environment, you can go ahead and try and do so. It's a fun little challenge. Keeping the core engaged, really lifting here, taking 2 more full breaths. And on our next exhale, wherever we're at, releasing down, shaking out the arms and the legs. Great job, everyone. I can't see you, but I'm sure you did amazing. On our inhale, we'll go ahead and sweep the arms up. And exhaling, hinging at the hips, folding forward. Inhaling, taking a deep bend in the knees, planting the hands. We'll go ahead and step straight into our downward facing dog. Just noticing how this downward facing dog feels compared to the very first one of class. From here, we're going to come into our pigeon pose. If we have any knee problems or find any discomfort as we're coming into pigeon, I invite you to do it on your back, and I will show you how to do that first. But if you'd like to come into traditional pigeon pose, you can go ahead and slide that right knee just behind the wrist here. The foot can be back by the hips. We're dropping that back knee, untucking the toes. We can stay right here. We can have our hands on blocks. We can fold forward as much as we'd like here in our pigeon pose. The option on our back, we can hug that knee into the chest, or if you'd like to, we can come into that figure 4 pose if we have any discomfort in the knee. So those are our 2 options, whether we're on our belly or on our backs. Just breathing here. Finding the space to be okay with a little bit of discomfort of the stretch. Just sitting with that, noticing how it feels. Sending our breath to any sticky spaces. Wherever we're at, coming back up onto the hands, tucking the back toes. If we're on our backs, we're just leaning back in our downward facing dog here. Our last downward facing dog. Maybe noticing how one hip feels a little more open now. And just coming into our pigeon pose on the other side, however we need. Bringing that left knee towards the left wrist, untucking the toes. Coming to our pigeon pose on our left side. Having the same option as before. If we have any discomfort in the knee, we can come to that figure 4 on our backs. Just finding a spot to settle wherever we're at. Coming back to the breath. Taking 2 more full breaths here. When we're ready, we're actually just going to roll over slowly onto our sides, coming all the way onto our backs here. We might be facing the other way, but that's perfectly okay. And from our backs, bringing the soles of our feet towards our hips here, arms are at our sides, palms down. We're going to come into just a couple bridge poses. Taking a deep inhale together. On our exhale, pressing in through the feet, lifting up the hips. And exhaling and releasing back down. Finding this just one more time. Inhaling together and exhaling, pressing through those hips. If we'd like to, we can maybe even tuck the shoulders down under and find a clasp between our hands underneath our hips. Taking one full breath, holding this bridge here. And exhaling, releasing down. You can inhale both knees into the chest. Drawing circles with the knees. Massaging the lower back. And switching directions of our circle. On our next inhale, we can hug the right knee into the chest, sending the left leg out long. And exhaling, taking that knee across the body, finding a twist. The arms come out to a T or goalpost, cactus. The gaze is to the right. Inhaling slowly, coming back to center. And exhaling just to switch sides, extending the right leg. Inhaling the left knee into the chest. And when we're ready on our exhale, finding that same twist. The arms come out to a T. The gaze is over the left shoulder. Inhaling slowly, coming back to center, hugging both knees into the chest just for one more breath. Maybe even lifting the forehead, Finding just one tight ball. And exhaling, releasing the legs out long, the arms at our sides or wherever comfortable. Coming into our final relaxation or Shavasana pose. Bringing in any pillows or blankets if we'd like. Finding any adjustments until we can allow our body to settle here. Allowing the eyes to draw closed. Coming back to the breath. Ending class the same way that we began. Maybe noticing how we're feeling right now in this moment. Noticing how the body feels, how the breath feels, maybe how connected we feel to the body and the breath. Maybe noticing the energy we built throughout our body. Taking this last pose to feel fully supported. Letting go of any tension. Just soaking up the feeling of stillness, soaking up everything that just happened in the past hour. With each inhale, we're inviting in energy for the rest of our day. With each exhale, releasing go of that negativity or tension. Beginning to bring some awareness back into our environment. Start to wiggle the toes, wiggle the fingers. Maybe slowly rock the head side to side. If you have the time, if you'd like to, I invite you to stay in Shavasana for 5 or 10 minutes longer. Just soaking up this feeling after our practice. If we're ready to come out, we can inhale, one arm up overhead, and slowly roll over to whatever side that was, bending the knees, using that arm as a pillow. Using our top hand from here, we can go ahead and press ourselves up to a comfortable seated position. Bringing the hands to heart center and taking a moment to thank ourselves for coming to our mats for our practice this morning and taking the time to honor our bodies for all it's allowed us to do throughout this practice. The light within me honors the light within each of you. Namaste. Thank you all so much for coming. I hope that you enjoyed class this morning.
Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you.